Welcome back to Bible Essentials. My name is Sarah Ruff. We are reading Daniel chapter 8 today. Boy, Daniel chapter 7 last week, there was a lot, wasn't there? A lot. I do hope that you will watch that first before you watch Daniel chapter 8, because Daniel chapter 8 is going to add to Daniel chapter 7. All right, well, let's begin reading then. It says, in the third year of King Belshazzar's reign. Okay, so chapter 7, remember I told you, chapter 7 through the rest of, and 12 are all dreams that Daniel has within Daniel chapters 1 through 6. And so remember in Daniel chapter 7, verse 1, that vision was in the first year of Belshazzar. And then 2 years later, he has another vision. It says, in the third year of King Belshazzar's reign, a vision appeared to me, Daniel, after the one that had appeared to me earlier. I saw the vision, and as I watched, I was in the fortress city of Susa in the province of Elam. I saw in the vision that I was beside the Ulai Canal. I looked up, and there was a ram standing beside the canal. He had 2 horns. The 2 horns were long, but one was longer than the other, and the longer one came up last. You should, by now, when you hear horns, what do you immediately think? Kings. Think kings. We'll confirm it in the interpretation, but here's the dream. I saw the ram charging to the west, north, and south. No animal could stand against him, and there was no rescue for his power. He did whatever he wanted and became great. As I was observing, a male goat appeared, coming from the west across the surface of the entire earth without touching the ground. The goat had a conspicuous horn between his eyes. He came toward the 2-horned ram I had seen standing beside the canal and rushed at him with savage fury. I saw him approaching the ram, and infuriated with him, he struck the ram, shattering his 2 horns, and the ram was not strong enough to stand against him. The goat threw him to the ground and trampled him, and there was no one to rescue the ram from his power. Verse 8, then the male goat became very great, but when he became powerful, the large horn was shattered. 4 conspicuous horns came up in its place, pointing towards the 4 winds of heaven. Okay, think horns, kings. Verse 9, from one of them a little horn. So the main horn was shattered. There's 4 conspicuous horns that take that place, but out of those four horns, a little horn emerges and grew extensively towards the south and the east and toward the beautiful land. It grew as high as the heavenly host, made some of the stars and some of the hosts fall to the earth and trampled them. It made itself great, even up to the Prince of Hosts. It removed his daily sacrifice, the Prince of Hosts' daily sacrifice, and overthrew the place of his sanctuary. Because of rebellion, a host together with the daily sacrifice will be given over. The horn will throw truth to the ground and will be successful in whatever he does. Then I heard a holy one speaking, and another holy one said to the speaker, how long will the events of this vision last? And what is he talking about? What events? The daily sacrifice, the rebellion that makes desolate, and the giving over of the sanctuary, and the host to be trampled. How long will all this last? He said to me, for 2,300 evenings and mornings, then the sanctuary will be restored. Okay, verse 15. While I, Daniel, was watching the vision and trying to understand it, there stood before me someone who appeared to be a man. So someone who appeared to be a man stood before Daniel. I heard a human voice calling from the middle of the Ulai, Gabriel, explain the vision to this man. Great. I'm so glad, because what did all this mean? This ram, this goat that conquered, the shattering of the main horn, the four horns that took its place, the little horn that grew out of that. What does all this mean? Verse 17, so he approached where I was standing. When he came near, I was terrified and fell face down. Son of man, he said to me, understand that the vision refers to the time of the end. If you get nothing else, get this. The vision, Daniel, that you have seen, it actually refers to the time of the end. While I was speaking to me, I fell into a deep sleep with my face to the ground. Then he touched me, made me stand up, and said, I am here to tell you what will happen at the conclusion of the time of wrath, which is at the very end, because it refers to the appointed time of the end. So your vision that you saw is referring to the very time of the end. And here we go, the two-horned ram that you saw it's representative of the kings of Media and Persia. There you have it. You don't have to guess about this ram. The horns, it's the kings of Media and Persia. The shaggy goat represents Greece, the king of Greece, and the large horn between his eyes represents the first king, and we know that was Alexander the Great, the king of Greece. The four horns that took place of the shattered horn represent four kingdoms. Remember, I told you horns represent kings and kingdoms. So the first king of Greece is shattered. Four kingdoms take its place. They will rise from that nation, but without its power. Why? Because when King Alexander is ruling over Greece, there's only one. But when that kingdom gets split between four kings, those four kings are always vying for power. And so it weakens their power. Verse 23, near the end of their kingdoms, near the end of those four kingdoms, when the rebels have reached the full measure of their sin, an insolent king, skilled in intrigue, will come to the throne. His power will be great, but it won't be by his own. He will cause terrible destruction and succeed in whatever. Again, don't forget, it is God who sets this king up, and it will be God who takes him down. So this king that is skilled in intrigue, that's going to come to the throne with great power, but it's not going to be his own power, that's going to cause terrible destruction and succeed in whatever he does, God is the one that sets him up. He will destroy the powerful along with the holy people. It is God who sets this king up. Don't forget that. So he will destroy the powerful along with the holy people. He will cause deceit to prosper. Deceit, remember when you deceive someone, it's a little bit of the truth, isn't it? Kind of like if you go shopping with your daughter and you have your daughter pay for your clothing purchases, and your husband, you get home and your husband says, did you buy anything today? And you say, no. Well, you're deceiving him because you really did, but you didn't because your daughter bought it for you. Do you see that? That's deception. That's deception. So he will cause deceit to prosper. A little bit of the truth wrapped around a big lie. Through his cunning and by his influence and in his own mind, he will make himself great. In a time of peace, listen, it's going to be in a time of peace that he's going to destroy many. He will even stand against the prince of princes. He's going to even stand against the ruler of rulers. But he will be shattered, not by human hands. The vision of the evenings and mornings that has been told is true. Now you must seal up the vision because it refers to many days in the future. Again, this vision that is happening during the time of Greece, this king that is going to come out of this Grecian empire that's going to do these things, remember, it is referring to the time of the end. And it tells Daniel, you must seal up this vision. remember, by this time, Daniel, by the time Belshazzar was reigning, it was towards the end of those 70 years. So Daniel would have been an older man. And think of the knowledge that Daniel had. He knew that the kings of Media and Persia were taking over Babylon. He knew that. That's why he says to Belshazzar, when he says, if you can interpret this, Daniel, I'll give you a purple robe and a chain around your neck and make you the third highest position in the land. Daniel says, keep your rewards. He knew that the Medes and Persians were going to take over. He knew that already. Okay, let me finish this out. 27. I, Daniel, was overcome and lay sick for days. Then I got up and went about the king's business. I was greatly disturbed by the vision, and I could not understand it. Underline that. I could not understand it. Daniel does not understand this dream. We'll see, because it's going to come back to us that he's going to have a better description of this. Okay, look at if you're by your phone or your computer, look at this. I'm going to put a slide up here for you. I want you to see the vision, and then we're going to put the interpretation on here. So important. Daniel in his vision sees a ram, 2 long horns. The last horn was longer. The 2 horns, the kings of Media and Persia. It was charging west, north, and south. No animal could withstand it. No one could rescue from its power. It did whatever he wanted and became great. Then Daniel saw a male goat from the west crossing the face of the earth. A conspicuous horn was between its eyes. A notable horn was between its eyes. It struck the ram, shattering those 2 horns. The male goat became great, and then he was shattered. Then he saw 4 horns, and out of those 4 horns, a little horn that grew toward the south, east, and beautiful land, which is Israel, grew as high as the heavenly host. Stars and hosts fell to the earth, and he trampled them. He made himself great to the Prince of Hosts, means Christ. He removed the Prince of Hosts. He removed the Prince of Hosts' daily sacrifice and overthrew his place of the sanctuary. That's the temple. Because of rebellion, the host and the daily sacrifice were given over to him. Because of the sin of Judah, it was given over to him, and of Israel, it was given over to him. He will throw truth to the ground and be successful in whatever he does. And how long? For 2,300 evenings and mornings. Now here's the interpretation. Look at this. We know the ram is the kings of Media and Persia. Remember, the Media was strong first. The nation of Media was strong first, but then Persia grew and became greater than the Medes. That's why the second horn became longer. It was stronger. The male goat, we know, is the king of Greece. We know the first king was shattered, and we know that it shattered that first king. The king of Greece shattered the Media and Persia. It conquered the Medes and the Persian, and the Grecian Empire became great under Alexander the Great. Then Alexander the Great died, and 4 kings, it was actually his 4 generals that took his place. And those 4 generals became 4 kingdoms. And out of those 4 kingdoms, one of them we know is the Seleucid Empire, that an insolent king, that little horn or an insolent king, will sit on the throne. His power will be great. He destroys the powerful and the holy people. He destroys the temple. He takes away the daily sacrifice in the temple at that time, and he throws truth to the ground, and this occurs for 3.5 years. Okay, but Daniel doesn't understand this vision. Let me show you something. Let me show you this. Let me see if I can explain this to you and simplify it even more. Look at your screen. I've got a slide for you. Chapter 8, this vision refers to the appointed time of the end. Even though it happened during the Grecian Empire, it refers to the time of the end. So the 2-horn ram is Media and Persia. Media was strong, but Persia became stronger. The male goat is the kingdom of Greece. The large horn, the first king, is Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great dies. His kingdom is divided between 4 generals or 4 horns. That's Cassander, Lysimachus, Seleucus, and Ptolemy. That little horn, if you look at your slide, out of the Seleucid Empire, the little horn arises. And we know this is Antiochus Epiphanes. He takes the throne. He had great power, but it wasn't his own. He caused terrible destruction. He had great success. He destroyed the Jews and the holy people. He caused deceit to prosper. In a time of peace, he destroyed many. He stood against God, but he will be shattered. Let me show you this whole thing. Look at your screen again. Here is the whole Grecian Empire, this of color, but it was divided between Cassander, Lysimachus, Seleucid Empire, and the Ptolemies. Do you see that? That's how the Grecian Empire was split. And it was out of the Seleucid Empire, there to the north. Israel was between Ptolemy and the Seleucids, Israel. So it was to the north, the Seleucid Empire, that the king, Antiochus Epiphanes, was raised up and caused such destruction for the Jews. So let me show this one step further. Look at this. Look at our chart here. There's chapter 2, Nebuchadnezzar's dream. Chapter 7, Daniel's dream. He saw the lion, the bear, the leopard, the fourth beast, the 10 horns, and then Christ's kingdom. In Daniel chapter 8, he sees the Medes and the Persians and the Grecian Empire. Do you see that? Out of that Grecian Empire, a little horn arises, and he removes the sacrifice and he destroys the holy people. That little horn out of the Grecian Empire refers to, better explains what the little horn that is ruling with those 10 kings when Christ returns is going to be like. Oh, I hope you're looking at your phone or your computer here, because I think this will bring it all. This will help you understand this. The little horn during the Grecian Empire that was just explained to us that Daniel doesn't understand refers to the time, is explaining in detail, is going to be like the little horn or the king that's going to reign with these 10 horns before Christ returns. Yes? Oh my goodness, I need you to be here. I need you to be in my living room. I need you to be here so I know if you're getting this or not, so I can answer any questions. But this is the best I've got for you, and I hope and pray this is making sense to you. I do. I really do. All right, we have got to end this. Next week is huge. Next Thursday. So important. Be here, tune in, subscribe so you don't miss it. We're going to be in Daniel chapter 9 next week. I can't wait to share it with you.